or something. Yeah.
You not sleep a lot?
Oh yeah, you sleep very little as you get older.
Huh.
And you don't need it. But you sleep in the daytime too.
So you're kind of sleeping awake all the time. Okay, so we're recording there, and let's record here. And we'll see what happens. Okay, so it is the 10th of August, 1994.
Who was that? August 10th is my mother's wedding date.
Oh, really?
Yeah, August 10th.
Huh, okay.
1912, 1910.
So it's a good day to be doing this.
Yeah, it's a good day. Yeah.
Nothing but bad day.
Memory of my parents, sorry.
Sounds good.
That sounds good.
Hello, camera. We're talking.
Yes.
This is
Hello there.
Teresa Yanitelli Indrieri.
Raymond Ryan.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've already talked about gotten some of the dates and everything down. Do you want to just rattle through that again?
If you want them on record, then
Why not?
Why not?
And I think we'll probably write some of this down anyway, but if I'm too lazy to do that, we might as well have it recorded.
I was born, my mother and father, Donato Yanitelli. My mother is Gelsomina Veneruso, and my father was born April 19th, 1886. My mother was born February 28th, 1886, 89. Oh boy, I better look at the camera.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I've been looking at these numbers.
I'll look at the notes here. You can just talk. So you're telling me that.
Yeah, and they were born in Italy, in Naples, and I was born. Would I go on to myself or?
Go on to whatever you want to. We talked about Donato was an orphan.
An orphan.
Adopted by the Puma family.
And my mother was one of
8 children.
8 children.
So you told me that Donato learned his actual name when he joined the army.
Army, and when he was 21.
You see, your parents got married in Naples in 1910.
1910.
10th of August, 1910. And
my mother was 21 and my father was 23.
So your father wasn't in the army for too long.
3 years. 24, I guess.
Did he see any fighting?
No. It was not in the army. He was in the, it wasn't an active army. It was what they call a reserve. And he did his 3 years up near Trieste. It wasn't even near home. Yeah. And he wanted to marry my mother before he went away. And Mom says, "You're not going up there with those pretty blondes," and married me. So she waited until he got back. And then we got back and we got married in August.
I have a friend in high school who's also named Raymond Ryan. Do you remember Kevin Ryan?
Yeah.
He married one of those pretty blondes.
He did, from Trieste,
She may even be from Trieste. I know she's from the north.
Yeah, well, Trieste sometimes belonged to Italy, and one time, months later, we belonged to
Germany?
Germany? No. Switzerland.
Right.
Or the other one, the one that's having trouble now.
Yugoslavia?
Yeah, Yugoslavia. It was Yugoslavia. I'm almost positive of that.
Of course, back then, around 1910, before the First War, that would have been Bosnia, Herzegovina, and one of the others.
Yeah, because it was in that when the war started.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he came.
So you told me that Donato went over to America in April of 1913.
That's correct.
And what made him go over?
I made him go over that he had been fired and couldn't find work.
What was he doing what did he get fired from?
He used to work on the railroad when it was an inspector or something. But they told me some of it, and not that I didn't believe it. It's just that it seemed so foreign to me that I didn't understand it. When you don't understand, you
don't remember.
Yeah. And
so you should have videotaped.
That's enough of that. Now what are we up to now? Oh, so then I had a brother born a year ahead of me. He was stillborn. That was one of the problems. And then I came along a year later, and then this other problem set in. Bob just decided to change his luck. So he tried to try America.
So you were born in 1912. What is your birthday?
June 9th.
9 June. Okay. What was the other bad luck going on that made him leave? He lost his job.
Yeah, my mother had an infected breast, and my grandmother had to nurse me. So, because she had her youngest son was only a year older than I. Yeah. And he's the one I met when I went over. And there's like
which one was he? What was his name?
Agnello.
Agnello.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he no, his name was not.
We took some sheet notes on that. We had Franco and Agnello.
No, Franco's his son. No.
Franco.
And Antonio.
Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the missing name?
My uncle was Antonio. Yeah. That's the other name. I said Franco. It's not. It's Antonio.
Okay, so there is no Franco.
Yeah. Well, there is a Franco, but he's Antonio's son. Yeah. Antonio had 4 children the same as I did, and he was only a year older than I.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
I was born on his birthday.
That's
I mean, a year. I literally a year older.
Huh.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now that takes care of Antonio.
So Donato went over.
And we came over here, and
Donato came into Manhattan, or
right to New York City, right into New York City proper, and I don't know where. I never said the street. You did.
But you remember it.
Yeah, and the supervisors, or what do you want to call them, came looking for workers because the aqueduct was at Cold Spring, New York. They needed workers.
So they hired him as a bricklayer? Or?
No, it was a tunnel or something. They were building, going down, and it was so dangerous. He worked one day and he said, "The hell with this," excuse my English. So he went and looked for another job. He got a job as a farmer, another farmer, general handyman in a little farm, and that's what he learned part of the English. The cooks and the people in the house, every time he brought vegetables to it, he'd say, "This is this," and that's how his English became, got more words and more words. So then he started to get very lonesome and told Mrs. Glover that he was going to go back.
Mrs. Glover?
And that's what they were the family that owned the whole thing. And he was going back to Italy. So she said, "What do you want to go back for? Send for your wife." And they encouraged him, so Pop sent for me and Mom.
How did they pay for the passage? Did he send money back?
Well, my mother sold all her furniture, everything, and she tied a money belt around her middle, me in one arm, and she brought with her a very the Ascension. Picture of this. They tied him, and it was in a big gold frame. And me in one arm and the picture in the other arm. That's all she brought over from. That's all she brought over.
Do you know where the picture is now?
It was lost to my mother. My mother was. We shut it off. When they moved my mother's stuff after my father died, they kind of mislaid someplace. It's around someplace, but I don't know where it is.
Well, that'd be something to find, wouldn't it?
Yeah, something.
So you remember it?
I remember it. Oh yes, it was on my mother's in their bedroom on the thing. It was always there. My father came from the Annunziata. That was, and he died, and he was buried on the day of the Ascension. Was it Thursday? You know, the one in March. Yeah. Annunciation. I mean, it's not the Ascension. The Annunciation. Yeah, 25th of March.
Yeah, the Annunciation. That's when John baptized.
No. No, it's when Christ was born. When Mary was.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
When she was visited.
Yeah. The Annunciation.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was.
Sorry, Mom. CCD classes to this day.
A little progress report. Well, anyhow.
So Glover's put it. So that's how your mother paid for her passage. How did Donato?
Well, I guess he must have. I don't know. He had money when he came, so. Yeah. That was never told. I never asked that question. I just assumed they were rich. That's what. No, they weren't. They were never.
Yeah. Energetic.
Yeah. Well, his family was not poor. You know, they were middle class. I forget what his father did. I forget now. Maybe we'll come to it if I think, but I haven't thought about that.
We'll keep talking.
Yeah.
If it comes to you.
Yeah. And anyhow, so Pop came over, and then so he wrote to my mother, and my mother.
She came over in October of 1980.
In October.
So it was about 6 months after he came over.
Yeah. and he came over. And
So-
in 3 years, there were a few Italians there, families, but she was from the city, and she felt out of I don't know how to explain it. I don't think she was better than them, but she felt a little bit
Cosmopolitan.
yeah, more cosmopolitan. That's right.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with
She's a town girl stuck on a farm.
thank you, thank you. And the other thing, she always had a fine sense of dress. She had a couple of beautiful outfits. In fact, I wore them. Well, one of them I wore about 2 or 3 years, different years to Halloween.
Oh, really?
The bustle in the back. I wish I had it now. Yeah. And then Mary was born. She was born on August 29th, 1914. That's right, I got it right.
August 24th or August 29th?
I say 29th.
29th. Okay, I think you said
In
that.
1914. That's right. And then Al came along, and he was December 21st, 1915.
No cheating now.
No cheating. Those I know because and Sal was September 9th, and 1917. Right? And
then Don Jr.
Yeah. Then my mother had a miscarriage. That's why there's 4 years, because always natural. Because she'd had a very serious operation. She had gotten blood poisoning in her thumb, and had gone. My mother and had gone up to her arm, and it was Christmas Eve, and the doctor didn't want to operate on her because it was Christmas Eve. And they wanted to wait, and so Pop almost choked him and threw him out of the room, and he went and got another doctor. At that time, he had a beautiful Cadillac, and this doctor, how can I know his name? It's just left me.
The doctor's Cadillac? Or?
No, my father had a Cadillac, and he went over to the home, and he had been, why he hadn't been my mother's doctor was because he had come down with a flu or whatever the hell he had, and so Pop cried and said, with 4 children, and my wife was dying, and will you come? So he bundled them up and took them to the Cadillac and brought them over to the hospital. This happened in Peekskill Hospital at that time.
Was that in like 1918?
Yeah, it must be 18 because Sal was not born until.
Yeah, Sal was born in.
Not Sal. I mean, it was.
Don was not born until.
Yeah. It was in between there, so it must have been 18 or 19. I don't know which it was. Well, I think it was 18. I'm almost positive because. What makes it that? Sal, the baby, whatever that child was, I don't know if it was a boy or girl, she had a miscarriage in March of that year because the poison. That takes care of that part. Anyhow, and my father was supposed to sign with them to remove my mother's hand, cut the because the gangrene was so high up, and instead of that he cut a cord here and gave 2 drains in here, and he saved her arm.
Wow.
Yeah,
did she still have her?
Oh yes, she had use of her fingers, except for this one finger was always this way. You could see the cord pulled. And in fact, that finger's been in our life. Whenever you got hurt or anything, we always hung on to that finger like his mom's. It was my mother. So that's little things.
Yeah, the little things are what really matter. I mean, anybody can run off.
When Mary had her operation, she hung on to my mother for that, and that kind of made her feel.
How old was Mary when she was operated on?
She was in high school. It was appendix. Almost had a burst appendix, and she was coming and gone.
Yeah, my father went through something like that, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty soon after they got married.
Before they got married.
Was it before?
And Bob did the same thing. Those two just followed each other, your mother and father and Mrs. and Bob.
Yeah, still holding on to mine. Adding for it.
Well, and
so were they...
now we're down to that. Then
were
after
they
that...
still working on the farm?
No, this is when they were already going to business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by this time they were in, and they had moved over to where, on the other side of the river, on the other side of the tracks. The house that goes on the river.
So, don't be shy.
And,
the camera doesn't see you and it doesn't mind hearing you, so that's fun. So you were telling me that by 1916, So your mother had only been over for what, not even
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
She'd had enough.
And then she had she saved us $600 to go back.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's right, we're going into that then. That's before the operation. The operation was after that.
Right.
And then she decided to stay here.
Okay.
And
And they were when she saved $600 while they were living on the farm.
On the farm, working off that. Yeah. And then then instead of going to Italy, she says, I want to buy. And she bought a business down because the business she bought out was going back to Italy. And he went back. He was the older, and he didn't mind going back. It was not in the age group for the war. And so from that business, then they bought another one. That one was being torn down, so they bought another house across the railroad tracks on the Hudson, where I lived all my life. And Sal was born there, so that was 1917.
So they bought the first business with her money.
Her
and
money.
They saved enough from
And
that
Pop,
to buy the house across the river.
Then I think Pop worked on the farm for a little while, until then when they decided he would be a peddler, and took a horse and wagon, started with a horse and wagon, and take stuff from the store, and went around with it. And then as then 1918, and I think 1919 he bought his first car. As early as that. And he was quite
An entrepreneur.
Yeah, my family was kind of forward that way. They didn't sit back. Anyhow. And then eventually he went into the taxi business. That's when he bought his Cadillac. A baby blue Cadillac. I mean, it was really pretty.
Did he spend all his time as a cabbie, or did he?
Well, yes. Well, or in the store. And then, I don't know, I guess we kind of, we down to Donna. Donato was born in 1921.
Yeah.
2021.
We don't have to worry about this stuff.
Yeah. You know all that. You know them,
Yeah.
So that's about the beginning of it. That's about the biggest songs I can tell you about them. And then a couple of little stories.
Do you remember the farm?
Let's see, now I'm trying to think what year it was. I can remember. My mother had a little cut on her finger. This is before the big operation. It was after the operation. She got cut here, and all mixed up. Yeah, the hand business was before Danny was born.
And that was after you were across the.
Yeah, we were.
And what do you remember the farm?
Yes. We'd steal strawberries from there. Had the most delicious strawberries you ever had. But hot from the valley, nothing like it. Mary and I, we had television in those days. We saw on Saturdays. The television didn't have anything. And we'd always take a walk all around Garrison. And we were Garrison people, not Cold Spring at that time.
Was there a big difference between Garrison and Cold Spring?
Oh, yes. They wouldn't even send us to Cold Spring High School. They sent us to Peekskill. So I went to high school by train.
No kidding. So you took the train both ways every day?
Every day. It wasn't a very long ride, but it was, and we had to walk up a hill. And I was the last class that graduated out of Drum Hill, of the high school I went to. My brothers and everybody else went on to Peekskill High School. They built a new high school.
What was the name of your high school?
Drum Hill.
Drum Hill.
Drum Hill. And now they call it Peekskill High School. And Sal and Albert and they graduated from Peekskill High School.
So why didn't you go to Cold Spring?
Well, they didn't like to go there.
Did you know why?
Well, I always thought it was. I was never told why. I just know that the Garrison people were kind of looked down their noses. We were a very small town.
Yeah.
With Braymore and all the boys. Braymore's a Catholic. Franciscan, and boys who came there to study for the priesthood. With all those boys, and some of them were voting age 21. We didn't have 800 people on the voting list. So to show you how small Garrison was. I don't think it has much more right now.
Was Cold Spring about the same size?
Cold Spring was always larger, Cold Spring was a very interesting town, very interesting because it made the parrot gun was made there in Cold Spring Foundry. You know, the Civil War, and even Lincoln had visited at West Point and come to see the parrot and Foundry. Foundry is still there. They're trying to renovate it, but nothing comes of it. You know. So then, but Donnie, by the time my brother Donald came, then they went elected to go to Cold Spring High School. So he went to Cold Spring High School.
Okay.
But the rest of them, before that, we all went to Big School.
So Donnie was really the baby of the family, wasn't he?
Yeah, 10 years younger than I.
Yeah.
I was born in 1912. Yeah. I was about 10. I was 9, going on 10, I guess, when he was born.
How much of a mother to him were you?
My mother had a miscarriage after him. She had a lot of problems. The doctor said that she would never. It was very important not to. She wouldn't carry the next one, maybe to hurt her. I remember. That I remember.
And what did your parents do about that?
Nothing. I don't know. They didn't let me in on that secret. Honest, they didn't.
You're probably just as happy not to know.
Yes. Because as I said, I was 9 years old, and I would argue with anybody that came that Donnie was brought in a big suitcase and at 9 years old. Today they know it too. That's a fact, right?
Yeah. So were you a mother to Don, do you think, or more?
Yes, very much. Yeah. Well, the store was right in the house.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
So were you on the second floor?
The first and second. The first floor we had, it was a large house, and the whole thing, one section was the store. We had a soda fountain, and then over here was kitchen, dining, and living room, and upstairs we had 6 bedrooms. So large house. And
that was just the immediate family in that house, right?
That's all, just us. And we was right on the water. We backed out, the garage, it was down below. I wonder if then the garage, I forgot the garage, so that makes it 4 stories. But up a different level. You had to go down. And then when you backed out, you almost backed out into the water, into the river. And one time we even had a float going out, not a float, the end of the dock going out to the Hudson there is very shallow, then it drops. It's very deep. The Hudson can go all the way up to the ocean depths. Go to Albany.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you swim in the river, or did
All
you
the
boat on
time.
the river?
All the time. Yeah. We had a couple of boats. We had a kayak. We had a rowboat.
A kayak, really?
Yeah. Old Donnie could do that thing.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Kayaking's getting really popular.
Again, yeah.
No people doing ocean kayaking and things like that.
Right. So we had.
Sounds like Donnie was quite an adventurer.
Yeah. Well, he was very because. He didn't have any of the work. You know what happens? Everybody had to work in that family. They didn't care what education you had, or it was Donnie, as my mother used to say, even though you think you're going to be a doctor, you still put the garbage out. That kind of thing. But Donnie was kind of the tail end and got all the good things.
Yeah. Linda gets away with murder now,
Yeah,
too.
it's natural. It's natural.
Sure.
I don't know. What else can I tell you?
Anything that comes to mind. Did I'm trying to keep asking you questions. Did your mom? Okay, the family came over. They did pretty well. I don't know. Did you all go to? Did you go past high school?
I went to college.
Yeah.
I
Did you
had
all
2
go to
years.
college? Did you all go to college?
Yes. Oh, but Mary. Mary never finished high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was had a brain. But my father needed help, and she was happier at helping than she was at. By that time, we had 3 stores.
Really?
Yeah. Then after my father was taxi business, and people started having their own cars, and taxi kind of petered out. And he used to do the taxi business for Bill Brown, and Bill Brown was a health farm.
Health farm?
Health.
What is a health farm?
Well, like today's spas.
Okay.
Yeah, and now it's a golf course and quite trying to make it famous. This is Garrison Country Club, and well, anyhow, when Bill Brown had it, he had a lot of these judges and and to come up there to dry out. Yeah. And then my father used to take them to the golf club. At that time, the Highland Country Club was where they played golf. My father would take them and bring them back. And he had a nice little business, aside from meeting the trains. And he would drive them to New York. In those days, to drive to New York was quite a drive.
Yeah. It's not all short now.
No.
So they call him Tony still? Or
Oh, it always was Tony. Never called him anything else. And my mother was Mrs. Tony. And there were a couple of ladies that they used to call her Jessie, but otherwise everybody called her Mrs. Tony. No, but anyway. Yeah.
Do you know, did they bristle at that at all, or did they care?
No.
No, didn't mean anything?
No. It didn't mean anything, but they were that's what they're.
Just,
Yeah. They were so young when they came. They always wanted to please.
Right.
And my mother would never speak to us in Italian because we were at the store and the kitchen was right there. Right. And she always felt that people were thinking you were talking about them. Oh, she may be telling them to put salt in the water for the spaghetti or something. But you wouldn't know. Yeah. And we had the only soda fountain. This is something that was very interesting that I ever knew, who had 3 spigots: water, seltzer, and beer.
Huh?
We sat draft beer.
Okay.
Yeah, it was after the Prohibition.
After Prohibition?
Yeah, naturally. Yeah. And then my father got the liquor license. His license was
When was Prohibition repealed? That was
32. 33. My father got a license in 33. Got 2 licenses.
And that's the liquor store that's still in the family.
Still in the family. Yeah, 1933. Yeah. He repealed it. Roosevelt repealed it.
Brilliant.
Yeah. He won the election. That's when Roosevelt was running. That's when I met John.
During the campaign?
During the campaign.
And
it was still Prohibition. And we'd go to this party and in Brooklyn. And all I could see was my name in the headlines, and the cops came in. I thought they were going to raid the place. But they weren't. They were friends. But I didn't know that. But all I could think of, my father would read the caption.
Yeah, you were telling me yesterday about how you and Grandpa, I remember this morning about how you and Grandpa actually met.
Yeah, well through my friend Marie.
Right. Where did you meet Marie?
It's college.
At college.
Yeah. And she, my name was Yanitelli, and her friend's name was Yanitelli. We made us friends. And,
was Marie Italian? Or
oh yes, Italian. And she was a twin. Her brother went to Columbia.
Where did you go?
She became a social worker. And her father was the plumber, a plumbing contractor. And John was the plumber that worked for her father. And that's how I met John. And I didn't see him. I'd only see him whenever I went down. There was nothing there. At that time, he was 28, and I was 20. And when you're 20, 28 looks awfully old.
I don't want to hear about that.
Right?
When you're 29, 28 seems awfully young.
Yeah, well, not to a 20-year-old.
Yeah. So you courted for a long time then?
And then I knew of him.
Knew of him? Oh, okay.
I knew him. Then we went to the wedding. Then Yanitelli, Marie's friend, she got married, and I went to the wedding. And John was at the wedding because he was friends with her brother. And it must have looked a little different. And he looked a little different to me. And he asked me for a date. And
how long did you know each other at that point?
Well, at that point, almost 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 26. Well, not quite, 6 years anyway. And we met in September. And he took me to a game at West Point. He came up to my house, met my mother and father. Oh, in the meantime, I forgot about that. A few years before that, he got a job up at Manawan, the crazy house. It's not a crazy house, it's a prison.
Okay.
In Beacon, and he knew me in Cold Spring, in Garrison, and he asked me to know where he could stay. So he stayed at one of the hotels there. Well, it wasn't a hotel, it was a Catholic villa, and they took summer people and the thing. So and at that time, my father said, "Now that's a young man," but I couldn't see John for anything. So when he came, second date, going back to my date, second date was in October. He took me to a football game at West Point.
What was the first date?
The first date was when I met him at the wedding.
Was that a date though, or did you?
Well, that wasn't a date. I should have said this was my first date after meeting him.
Okay.
Now, meeting him after a year, whatever, 6 years, whatever it was. Yeah. She was married in 38, and I met him in 33. So I guess, you know, it is quite a nice little time. Yeah. 32 I met him. And Marie would, whatever Marie was come up or see, she said, well, John was asking for you, know, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or she'd see John, and I say hello. You know, there was no animosity or anything. It was just that I didn't see him in that line, in that light. So this is September, October, then and at the end of October he invited me to his mother, and I always stayed with Marie when I went down. And this time he said, well, when he asked me to his mother's house, well, I either accepted and would know that it was serious. It could be serious, could be, not was.
That's the next step.
Yeah, that's the next step. So I stayed at his house the first time, and I met his mother and sister and brother. And then we went to a Halloween party, and I met all his friends, his group.
Were you wearing one of your mother's dresses to the Halloween party?
No, not that one. Oh, I wish I had the dress then. No, it was no party that one. It wasn't that kind of a party. It was just a gathering. Then the next date was in November, election day. In those days, the stores used to close. The liquor stores had to close. And Mary and I always had that date to come to New York and go shopping. Only we didn't go shopping. We went out to visit John again. In November.
Did your parents do that?
Thanksgiving weekend, he asked me to marry him. Christmas, I got my ring. Easter, I got married. Don't you think we did it all fast?
Well, yes and no. We certainly knew each other for a long time.
Yeah. I really should say because we did not actually see face to face, and more or less it was Yeah, because his group and Marie's group were all. What was the difference in the age group?
Do you remember who was playing at the West Point game?
Not Columbia. I think it was Columbia. Then we went to a Columbia game with. I forgot about that. There was another day. We went to Columbia, because John was a Columbia ruler. He just loved Columbia. I'm almost positive it was Columbia Army game.
Who won?
Oh, now, come on.
Well, you know everything else.
Well, let's say West Point.
Okay.
Because I was against him, he was from Columbia.
So you went through 2 years of school. Did you get a 2-year degree, or did you
No,
stop?
no, I just dropped out. I went to go in for teaching, and then the jobs in 1932 were not there.
Sure.
And I just felt useless, and my father needed help, and I just dropped out.
So you were married?
I didn't do as well in college as I could have, and so it was not inducive for me to.
Right.
Yeah.
Just frustrating.
Yeah, frustrating. That's right.
So
and then the biggest thing I ever did was I realized that going to college and going home at night in a house like ours, where my mother worked from 8 in the morning until 10 at night, and did the cooking and the shopping and the selling and all that. You always had something to do, and your work always came second.
The schoolwork always came second.
Always. When Al went to college, what happened was he didn't go to college. I take that back. He was going to go to college. He was going to go to Columbia, but he only had 2 years of French, and he needed 3 years those time. He had 5 years of language. Two. I guess you don't remember that.
No, I believe you.
Yeah. And anyhow, so he took a Delahanty. He took a course in business course. He learned how to all kinds of things, and then it was time for Sal to go to college, and I knew he wanted to be a doctor, and I recommended very highly because I was the only one that had any. I had a lot to say in the family. Honestly, I was always bossy.
Is that because you're the oldest, or just
oldest, and because they didn't speak English. I had remember they spoke.
Were you the only one who spoke Italian?
I'm the only one who spoke Italian. They didn't even know all my brothers knew were the curse words. Well, I take that back. They didn't know many of them. No, my mother, because my mother stopped speaking Italian.
Right.
Yeah, and she wanted to learn English. She wasn't interested in Italian.
How about your father? How much English did he get?
Much more than my mother. much better than my mother. But my mother was always, she always wanted to read. She just wanted to read so badly.
Did she ever get it?
She started, she could almost, she had, after I got married, that's how long it took her, and everybody was out of the house, and she had a young lady there who would come down a couple of times a week and teach her.
I guess she had no time for it before that.
No, she didn't, no.
She had the store?
No, the store was 24 hours a day. In fact, even on Sundays, we'd try to close from 1 to 3 to have something to eat. And always somebody invariably knocked on the door that needed a newspaper or needed ice cream or needed something, you know. And well, anyhow.
So you pushed everybody into little salad.
So I made Sal go to Cornell or any school. I don't care, but he picked Cornell because I knew he wouldn't have made the 4 years coming doing homework.
So you made sure that he was one away.
Sure. So to this day, he says that without me, he would never become a doctor. He's the one that just told me. I didn't realize that until recently when Sal told me.
How do you pay you back?
How do you pay me back? Well, by being nice to me.
Okay.
Taking me to once a year to. He's been nice to me all my life.
But you just know he's going to watch the tapes.
Yeah. And
so Sal went through school.
he went to Cornell.
Did Don get into school?
Donna?
Yeah. Did Don Jr.?
Don, yeah, Junior. He he graduated from out here. And aviation. What's in that? It'll come to me.
So he's a pilot from
yeah. Then the war broke out, and he came out of captain in the 8th Air Force. Yeah, he came out. He did very well. Well, he was a good flyer. As when he was.
Do you know he was flying? Was he a fighter?
Oh yeah, the 8th Air Force out of England. He was the Battle of the Bulge. His plane came down, and after when we had retaken that area, there's write-ups in some of the war magazine books. His name was his plane came down.
Did they spell it right? Donato Yanitelli?
Yeah, they call him Yank.
Yank.
Yeah, he's always Yank. Yeah. And then later on in life, after he lost his eye, I don't know if
right.
Yeah, he had his own flying school. When he came out of the army, he had his own flying school. He had three airplanes, and down on the water where we lived, and they would come up on a float, come up on the land. And he, a friend of his from Poughkeepsie flew down, had a brand new plane, and they brought the plane up, and they were standing on the float. And the water goes up and down in the Hudson. It's a tide, it's a tidal thing. And he said, something was frozen, and Johnny went to unfreeze it, unplug the thing, and the float went down, and the damn thing came back, and he lost his eye. And my mother, Al was still in. It was the 4th of July. I'll tell you what year it was. It was 47, because I was pregnant with Donna. And in a bathing suit, Al drove my mother, and my mother holding Donnie's eye. Hurt, it was painful, and all the way down to Cornell.
Oh, the name's not important.
Well, it's important because that's where that's where he had gone for his internship. And anyhow, just before that, he was going to apply he had applied for Pan Am to be a flyer, to be a flyer, because the school was petering out a bit. It wasn't petering out because he didn't have so many customers. And a couple of the boys that got a license through him, are still piloting. Yeah. Well, because of the eye, he couldn't, and then he kept the school. A few more years, and then he married.
Do you remember the name of the school?
Well, just a flying school. There was no particular name. I don't think it was called Yanitelli or anything, but Yank. I don't know what it was. I was married then, and had 4 kids, and I was too busy.
You had enough to worry about.
So they called me up. That's how I know when it happened. And they told me to sit down, and they want me to get excited about lose Donna, and as it turns out. But in that December, after Donna was born, he met Evelyn, his wife. They were married, and with one eye and all, she married him.
Do you want something to drink? You have a little water?
Well, I don't know. Don't you have enough?
Wait, we're just starting.
Oh no, there's not much more to tell.
Oh, there's plenty more to tell. We haven't even heard about the Indrieris.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have to do the Indrieris.
Okay, let me just stop this stuff for a second.
I forgot about them.
Yes. It's flashing. What does that mean?
It's blinking.
Has it been blinking all along?
That's how I know.
Yeah, it says it's recording.
It's through?
No, I think it's fine.
I'm sure it was blinking before.
Okay.
I really couldn't tell you. No. No, I don't.
It's moving. It's recording.
Okay.
And if it isn't, we've got the tape.
Okay.
So
John's.
do you know
John's father?
Yeah.
He worked for Con Edison.
What was his father's name?
His father's name was Salvatore Indrieri.
Was he born in the States or did he come?
No, he was born in Italy, in Calabria, in Reggio. That I do know. Reggio, Calabria is the the county, and Reggio is the town.
Do you know when he was born?
No, that I cannot give you. Well, I do know he was almost 80, and he died in 33. So I guess we could do the figuring.
Okay. So he died in 33.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he.
Do you know when he? Do you know about when he came over?
No, it came over. Well, what did we in the 80s?
Oh well, if he died near 80, 33, then he was born in.
Give me that, and I can tell you. He was about maybe 11 or 12 or 13.
50. He would have been more around 1850.
1850. I think I heard Esther say something. It was after the Civil War, so.
He's born after the Civil War?
No, he came over. He came over.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was that. And he got a job with Edison. And when he went to sign up to the job, they asked him his name. And the Italian version, they always say the first name, the last name first.
Right.
So his name was Indrieri Salvatore. So he says, "You're Andy Sullivan." And he was Andy Sullivan until his son went to work for Edison.
Until his son went to work for Edison.
Yeah, and then their son's name was.
So this is.
This is John's brother.
Oh, okay.
Oldest brother.
Yeah. So father and son both worked for Edison.
And he was a very, very clever man. I understand. I never met him because he died in 33. And I didn't meet John. I met John in 32, but never the family. You know,
do you remember when he died? Do you remember how Grandpa took it?
He died because he had got a stroke. He died from a stroke just before his 80th birthday, and his birthday was in, oh God, I couldn't tell you now. I did know it, but and I have it down. I have Esther's records and things.
Maybe we'll look it up. We'll see how ambitious we get with this after we're recording and everything.
Yeah. And he came to this guy, and then he didn't marry. He was 39 years old. He met this young lady. Now, her name was Philomena, with an F.
Philomena. 2 L's?
No, one L.
Philomena. Beautiful names, huh?
Philomena. And she is a twin. Her sister was Angelica. Any idea what their maiden name was? Vaccaro. I'm almost positive of that.
Vaccaro. How do you say?
V-A-C. I think
like
2 C's. 2 C's, I think, and A-R-O.
A-R-O.
Vaccaro. Exactly what you say.
I said 3 different things in the course of writing that down.
Vaccaro. Of course, it could be 2 R's or 1 C.
Vaccaro or Vaccaro?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, most of would be the masculine of it. And her twin was.
Angelica. So he was 39 when they met.
They met, and.
So it was still back in the.
No, it's here. It's here in this country.
No, it was in the 19th century.
Yeah, they married in. No, yeah, it was in the 18th century because they had 3. The first 3 children. She was married before. She was married in Italy, and then her husband died, she left her mother with her 2 children. She came to this country, and don't ask me when, I have no idea. And her brother-in-law had paid the fare, and very unlike her twin. Her twin was a very outward person. My mother-in-law was very, very reserved, so reserved that when they said they had to be paid back for the fare, he had sent the fare over, she had to go to work. So it was either go to work or get married. So in the meantime, they told this young man, Salvatore, that the nice widow up in Harlem, very lovely woman. My mother was a beautiful woman, my mother-in-law, very tall, very tall. And so they got married. They was married out of...
Is there a story about shoe polish?
I didn't know if I should put that one in.
No, you gotta have that one. I tried to tell that story to people, and I could never get the name straight. I don't know.
Well, it seems that, as I said, he was 39 and already turned gray. And
you know how old she was?
She was in the 25, I think. I think it was about the same age difference between her as 8 or 9 years, the same as it was between.
So she was pretty young for her first marriage.
Oh yeah, so those days.
Sure. Did she have children from the first marriage?
Yeah, 2. Then when her mother came over, well, I'm trying to remember, that's what it was. I'm trying to remember the date, because Al was the firstborn, and he was born, Molly was 1900, Adeline, and 1889, 1888.
What was 1888?
And Sal, that's when they could have been married.
Oh, okay.
No, 98, excuse me, 98. Because I know the other birthdays. And I'm going back, they had a baby every 2 years. You know, maybe not 2 years, but a year and a half. It was always 2 years.
Right. Yeah. That's how I always figured my parents.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was born in 65, so that means a thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And,
okay, so tell me about the shoe polish.
Oh, shoe polish. So when he heard about this young lady, and such a pretty one, and he felt old, and so he darkened his hair with black shoe polish. In those days, they didn't know enough to do the. I don't even know you could buy dye. Could you in those days? I don't know.
I'd ask you.
Well, so he met her, and they got married. And then on the pillowcase, shoe polish comes off, and so he washes out. But Salvatore, my mother-in-law told me that. Yeah. Because I was the first daughter-in-law that she could speak to.
Oh, she only spoke Italian?
Yeah. She spoke English, but very, very words. And I mean literally. Because when they came over, they
don't stop. Just turn over the tape. That's the
one. We're still going?
So, congratulations. We've talked for 45 minutes.
No wonder I was trying.
You're holding up well.
Well, they lived in Harlem.
Wasn't it Spanish Harlem then? Wasn't it Spanish Harlem then?
No, not then. No. No, 114th Street was very Italian.
Okay.
Very Italian. The Germans were very close, but no, nothing to do with neither Spanish nor
black is what I say now, I think.
Excuse me,
African.
I say Negroes. I'm sorry.
Say what you say.
What are we up to?
So what are we up to? We just got Philomena married to Salvatore.
Salvatore.
And they lived in Harlem.
In the Harlem.
They lived with
they lived at 118th Street. That's where John was born, I think he said. And he went to school on President Avenue over there. But,
who was the firstborn?
Albert. He was not the firstborn, but the first 2 who died with diphtheria. 2 girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were infants. You know. So the ones that lived was Albert. Let's go through that.
He's Albert too, huh?
Yeah.
Everybody's Albert or John or.
Albert.
Do you know he was born?
Yes. Molly was 1900. Below that was 98, and he was 96.
Okay.
1896.
And who was born?
And then Adeline. Adeline died. Adeline was born in 98. Oops, what's the matter? Oh, the door.
Cabinet.
I thought he did it.
No.
98. And she died in 1921.
Huh, I guess I don't remember her.
No. Then Molly.
Molly.
Well, her name is Amalia, really. Nobody would remember Amalia.
That's fine.
A-M, Amalia. A-L-I-A, I guess. And that's all they ever told her. And then came Vincent. That's what I think you know him. And Uncle Jim.
Oh.
Adeline's father.
Yeah, I know his daughter Adeline. That's what it is.
That's not the Adeline you know.
No. So how'd you get to Jim from Vincent? Any idea?
I understand that all Vincents are called Jim in this country. I don't know why. I never could figure that one out.
Huh.
When I first met him, when I was told his name was Jim, when I wrote to,
Right.
I think when I sent the wedding invitation, I'm sure I put Jane. Because to me,
Right.
see, I didn't know any of the Italian.
I like Jim better than Vinny. So.
Yeah, Uncle Jim. And then came 1902.
Very evenly spaced family.
Very soon. Then Joseph. That's Joseph's father.
Big family. Giuseppe, huh?
Giuseppe, in 1904. And then Vincent.
Oh, we have Vincent.
Not Vincent. Victor.
Victor.
Uncle Vic.
God, big family. 1906.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's probably John in there somewhere, huh?
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. John was after Vincent. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
John was 1904. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just cross that off. Put John.
Okay. And so was Joseph in 06?
Joseph's 06. Yeah.
And then Victor?
Victor.
In 1908?
In 1908.
They keep going?
And Esther was, Ernestine.
Ernestine was her real name?
Yeah. They had very fancy names.
1910.
1910. And I was born 1912. Not bad, is it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you know?
Does that make 8? I knew them all except Adeline. I never met Adeline.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it.
That's 8 is great.
So I remember my mom saying that she wanted to have a dozen babies. She got a half dozen, and she got cured of that pretty quickly. So I can see where that.
When your mother came up and told Susan she was having but they followed each other.
Right.
She had 2 boys and a girl. Mom and Susan had 2 boys and a girl. She came up for the 4th one, and Susan says, "Don't look at me." She didn't want a 4th one. So that's the family.
So, how did they wind up in, or how did Grandpa wind up in Brooklyn?
Oh yes, that's a story. So that now.
Was he in Brooklyn already when you met him?
No. Yes, he was already in Brooklyn. They moved in Brooklyn in 1919.
The whole family did?
The whole family. Well, it seems Uncle Al was in the Navy during the war, and when he came back from coming back from being discharged, whatever you call it, the girls were kind of nice age, 16, 17, 18, and they didn't want their brother to come home to Harlem or that there, and they decided to look for a house. And that's when they moved in February 1919. They moved into Brooklyn.
This was because they wanted a house for Al to come home to?
A room, so that their older brother could have suppose in Harlem, it must have been a very small apartment. Right. 8 kids, and they worked on the beading. They knew how to do the beading work. That's what they did at home. Adeline and Molly. The 2, they were very close. And
they did beading for dresses?
For dresses, real beading. And then that's when, unknown to them, when they bought the house waiting for their brother came home married. So then the first grandchild was born, and they were living in Brooklyn. So Al and Fanny, Al's wife, he was married to Fanny.
Any idea where he met Fanny? Where did Fanny come from?
Fanny, she met him through the Navy. It was in the service. I don't know if she met him not before the service, not after the war. I don't know how, but all I know is that that they were married and pregnant. They came home to this new house, and they gave him the room, and they depended on his salary to pay for the mortgage. They didn't have much of the. I mean, 8 children and 1 job. You know, it wasn't like today. You know, and Al being the oldest, he was the only one that would have been. And then that's when he went to work for the editor. Right. Right after. But and Fanny was Irish.
Was Salvatore still working by the time that came?
Oh yes, he worked until I think he retired a couple of years before he married and before he died. He worked quite a while. Wasn't forced to in those days. You weren't forced
to retire.
Retire, yeah. But I remember rightly, he worked quite late, quite a long time.
So the two of them really paid for the whole household then.
Yeah, well, but he had a wife.
Oh, sure.
So then he moved, and Fanny was very unhappy. Very unhappy, and what was different? She was a tea drinker, and they were coffee drinkers. They didn't understand each other. My mother didn't know any words, and she wanted to be nice to her, and it was very uncomfortable. All he tells them, used to tell me.
Do you know what was Fanny's ethnicity? Was she the Protestant American?
Oh, she was Catholic. She was Irish.
She was Irish.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. The first Irish wife.
Then Uncle Jim got married, and he got married. God, I think in the 20s. He was. I don't remember exactly.
Do you remember her name?
I know both names because I met the whole family. Well, it'll come out. We'll fill that in later.
And she was another Irish girl, whatever.
Another Irish girl.
Do you know where they met?
They lived she was from the Bronx, and they lived up in the Bronx. You know. And then Victor got married. John, wait a minute.
Take your time. Nice uncles.
When John and I got married, Victor was already married. He married Rita. Rita begins with an S.
Sullivan?
No, that's too obvious.
Okay, the first name is funny.
Yeah.
Where did they wind up? Did they stay in the house also? Or?
No, they lived in Brooklyn. They lived in Brooklyn. And their daughter is named Judy. They had a daughter named Judy. And Judy was born in 1937.
Okay. So who we got married off so far?
Molly was married. Oh, wait a minute, we forgot Molly. Put Molly in there.
Okay.
Molly married Frank Salatino.
Sounds good Italian. Molly married Italian.
Yeah.
Say his name again?
Salatino.
S-A-L. His first name?
Frank.
Frank Salatino.
Francesco.
S-A-L-L.
I. Yeah, Salatino. Tino. And they had 2 children.
Sure, more names are better.
Their names was Rosalind.
That's a nice name.
Rosalind was born in 25. And Joan. 2 daughters. And she was born about 2 years later. I don't know. 2 or 3 years then.
Okay. All right. So we got, who do we have married off here now? We've got...
the brothers were all married off. And by this time, after...
How about Joseph?
Well, Joseph got married after.
After you and John?
After, yeah. He got married... I said, when did we go to war? 45?
I was...
44.
44. I not even... No, it was 44. It was 44.
He got married. Wait a minute. John went to Trinidad in 42. He left me, well, we were married in 39. We've got to put that down first.
Yeah.
It was before Uncle John.
In 39 you married. So the war was already going on in Europe by then.
Yeah, but in Europe, but we weren't at war yet. No. And in 40, and then Susan was born in 40. And Joanne was born in 42. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
And in 1941, John went to Trinidad.
What? Was he in the service?
Not in the service, but as CBs. He wasn't with the CBs, but he worked. Maybe not just. I don't know. Did he leave December or January? Well, anyhow, it was 14 months. When he came back, he found a daughter. He let me. He didn't see Joanne for 10 months until she was 10 months old.
How about that?
Yeah.
So that was so then 41, end of 41, beginning of 42.
Yeah. He came home in January.
And he came back 14 months later?
14 months, yeah.
Okay. How about that? So.
Because he came back to the end, all of January. See, it was.
How did you keep in touch when he was gone? A lot of letters.
Letters, not too many, but letters, and money. He sent me my checks, and then I went home to live with my mother.
Oh, so you went back up to Garrison?
I went back to Garrison. I wasn't going to stay there. There was a little family squabbles there, not with me, but with my brother, and that has nothing to do with anything else. So that's very immaterial. I don't want that. So then when John came back, I wanted to stay in Cold Spring, and I wanted him to go into business there instead of working for somebody else, and he didn't want it. He just was not he was not my family, not a Yanitelli, no. He never wanted to be on his own. Always, and he never lost a day's pay since the day we got married.
Really?
And he got a job. Immediately he came back, he got a job. We came back down to Cold. We took an apartment, and we went out to Long Island looking for a house. He was going to buy a house, and when this house had that wrong with it, that house had something. Well, John was not a good buyer. So meantime, his mother became very ill. She was still living, and Esther was taking care of the house. We lived on 74th Street, and they lived on 72nd, and she got pneumonia in the hospital. And when I was bringing her home from the hospital, Esther was working. She couldn't give up her job, and so Mom couldn't go here because this one, Mom couldn't go there. And so I told John, I said, I don't mind going back to the house. And so John said, I wouldn't ask you because it was a big thing with 3 kids.
Sure.
It wasn't easy.
When was John born?
John was born in 43. Yeah.
So you were doing this house hunting and everything?
Yeah.
Well,
John came home at 40.
Yeah, John came home late.
He came home in 40.
He came home
in 43.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I got confused there for a minute. Yeah. And he was born 9 months later. I mean, very natural. And so I went back in May of. And then meantime, Rita was Vic's wife, was a very good friend with me. They lived very close, and she.
They lived in Brooklyn, you said?
Yes, in Brooklyn. And on New Year's Eve in '44, she was visiting, and she fell down. It was a new house, and her daughter she was chasing her daughter. She fell into the closet. She opened the door and went tumbled down a flight of steps and was killed instantly. This is my sister-in-law.
Wow.
Yeah. So Rita, so Mom was left really alone. Rita could have lived with her if she had passed away. And it was May after that Mom came home from the hospital, and we went over, and I lived in that house for the rest of my life.
So when you and Grandpa came back to the house in Brooklyn, it was just your family and his mother?
And mother and sister.
And her sister?
Yeah, Esther was lived with us all until she moved to California.
Esther?
As the youngest.
Okay. Did Esther marry?
Never. Oh, she married later. It's something we didn't acknowledge, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But it was there. Yeah.
That must have been hard to live with.
Very hard, very hard. Yeah. And she was a wonderful person, but she was unfortunate. That's the only way I can say it. Well, a lot of things happened to her that were not nice. They were nice, but they were wrong for her. Yeah. She had an opportunity to marry the boy next door, and he married somebody else, and she kind of never got over that. Things like that. Nothing serious, but
Yeah, a lot of setbacks.
yeah, setback. That's the word. Yeah. So that's about John's family.
Okay. Big family.
Oh, you don't know how big it is now.
I mean, we just got the.
Al's oldest daughter. Al had two girls. Don't you need more than that for this one?
No, I'm sure. Okay, we'll turn this.
She had 8 children.
Al has 8 grandchildren from his first daughter. Oh my.
And 5 from his second.
Oh jeez.
You want to know? You want
Sure,
list?
why not? Why not?
Oh, good. I don't know if I
do
give
it?
it to all.
So who are Al's children?
Mike.
These are his grandchildren?
His grandchildren. Oh, Mike's children. Wait, his children were Rita and Marie. I think the names keep repeating themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Rita was born in 1919 or 1920. I mean,
yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, she was the same age. Donnie, she was a year older than Donnie. So it's 1920 is correct.
Okay.
1919 is when they went into the house.
Gotcha.
Oh, you did get your first
Hold on, get it.
You can do it.
Yeah, I can do it now. Rita had Michael, Jay. I don't know the third boy. She had 3 boys. God, I can't remember all their names. How I can't.
Well, you're doing pretty well.
Michael and Jay I knew quite. Because Uncle Al used to come to visit, take the boys to visit with us.
Yes.
Frank was way down towards the end. Now one of the girls was.
How about
I
Marie?
went to the weddings. You think I'd remember them?
Went to a lot of
I
weddings.
went to a lot of weddings.
How about Marie?
Marie had Michael was not Michael. Thomas.
Yeah.
Tommy. Thomas.
Really?
Stephen. And then 3 girls.
Is there anybody else there?
Oh, I know their names too, but it's not common. I can look it up.
So Rita had 3 of each, 3 boys and 3 girls?
She had, yes.
Actually,
She had 8. No, she had 8.
Oh, that's
8.
right.
8. And all single, all singles. Yeah, I mean, they're twins.
Oh.
And she had 5. She had the 2 boys. 3 girls, that's right, 3 girls. Oh God, I know their names. It just went out of my head.
Oh, we can get it back.
Yeah, it's important.
Oh man. So you really.
And then we had Uncle Jim, then everybody else had single children.
They have twins or?
Nobody had two. Oh, Uncle Joe had 2 children. Joseph and
Those are easy enough things to look up or whatever. So your married life then was a lot different than what you grew up in.
oh yes, very good. And they came. You see, I had a mother house,
Oh.
and they all had to come see their mother. So I had a lot of company all my life. All my life I had a lot of. I did a lot of cooking, which I didn't mind. I liked. But I'm not complaining. Yeah, but we had company. Well, some way or other, we had company every Sunday. It wasn't Al, it was Jim, and it wasn't Jim. Joe lived there for a long, long time. Yeah. Well, Vic didn't come as much, and he was kind of not the black sheep, but he did a little drinking also, and he only came to see John when he wasn't. He wouldn't come sober. It was shame. I often asked him that. And we finally got him to stop drinking for over 2 years almost.
How?
AA. I went with him. I took him to the AA, whatever you call it. AA is AA.
That's right.
AAA is the old one. And
we took AAA to get him to AA.
yeah, and he met a nice young lady, and he went back to church. I mean, that much. And then she immediately, she had a cancer of the pancreas, and within short months it was over. And boy, he went off the deep end.
That's what drove her back to the bottom.
Yeah. But he was a wonderful. He always had a job. He was a wonderful worker in Wall Street. It was all, and he could have been a millionaire if he hadn't been to get for it.
Whose son is Joe and Jersey?
Joseph.
Joe's Joseph, so it's Joe Jr.
Yeah.
Oh. So,
And young Joe, they had an adopted child, Richard. I don't know if you met him.
I don't think so.
No. But Joseph had an older brother, but it was Irene's. He married Irene. And their child was her child was Richard, but he was adopted. He carries our name, but he's not an Indrieri, but he was adopted. And he's a veterinarian in Long Island. He's been raised business. He went to college, but Joseph didn't.
Joseph did pretty well without going to
He didn't
college.
need to college. He did not need it.
Yeah.
Oh God, that sister! I can see her picture. I can picture her.
I hope it comes up. We
It'll come up.
So we were talking about your childhood. We took a pretty quick jump from being a little girl in the counter and put you right into college. Do you anything particular you remember about growing up in Garrison?
Oh, yes, very much. I didn't have much freedom as far as a lot of the on the holidays, because there were always days that Mom was busy and kept us busy. And I graduated from grammar school. I'll show you how small the town was. 7 graduates
From the grammar school?
from grammar school.
Wow, I went to a small
Five
school.
boys, 5 girls and 2 boys.
How about
And I was the only one that went on with education, except one, my girlfriend. She became a nurse. And she lives in South Carolina. That's what I was supposed to visit last time when I went to see your mother.
Didn't do it?
Didn't do it because she wasn't well, and then your mother wasn't well.
Right.
She couldn't drive it. We had to drive that far, and it was a long distance. She was at Clemson.
You think you'll try again soon?
I might try it again, if I go again. I hear from her at Christmas, and she wasn't too well. She had more problems than I did. She was a nurse. When I went to NYU, she went to Columbia Presbyterian, and she's a graduate there. And she went into what do you call it, nursing, public nursing.
So it sounds like social work almost.
Well, yeah, but nursing, not some kind of settlement house.
Tenement?
No, settlement. The name of settlement is in the title that she had. Then from there, she went into setting up visiting nursing. Ah, there you got it. Yeah, she was interested in visiting nurses, and then she set up and she went to China, Japan. About the most traveled girl I ever knew. Came here to California. She came a lot of places.
How she went up in South Carolina?
After all the places she's been, and she settled there.
Do you want to wrap up for now?
Yeah, I think we have it.
Yeah.
I think now we go see what the young lady over there is doing.